On this episode of Star Trek Universe, Effie and I follow the White Rabbit, get sliced by a samurai, shot at by a fighter plane, punched by an old classmate before almost getting laid by an old flame. We're reviewing Star Trek 118, Shore Leave, after these words from our mystery hallucinations. Welcome into Star Trek Universe. We are continuing our classic Trek reviews with Star Trek 118, Shore Leave. I'm your host, David C. Roberson, he who hath seen all the things so many, many times. And my co-host is the fresh-faced Effie Ophelders, who hath seen none.
Yeah, I feel very fresh-faced. I also see on your face the things you have seen. It is not a great, sign for things to come to my face, but we'll try not to think about that.
Most of what you're seeing on my face comes from being a DC fan.
oh, thank goodness I'm not into that shit.
No, I know you are, but importantly, I'm not dragging you down an even worse path.
That's fair. That's fair.
When we get to Voyager,
I
we'll
wouldn't
talk.
hold it against you anyway. Oh, God. Ominous.
It's not nearly as bad as the Hamada-verse, if that...
I can... that I can take. That'll be the sweet relief of not quite death. Yeah.
It's blissfully dull and not nearly jokey enough. Almost
I might like that. Who knows?
Yeah, almost the exact opposite of Walter Hamada's DC.
I mean, that's blissfully dull in many ways, but yeah.
All right, the Memory Alpha synopsis: the Enterprise crew takes shore leave on a planet where their imaginations become reality.
Oh, they take shore leave. That's why it's called Shore Leave. I love that the synopsis really explains the title for me. Thank you, Memory Alpha.
I know. So, I have no notes on this episode. I mean, I have quotes that I liked, and I'm sure I could, riff an opinion here or there. But it is just a goofy-ass episode that I don't mind, but I also usually skip.
I get that.
Yeah. I don't...
It's fun to an extent, but also if you know the ending, it's probably not a great rewatch. It's just, it's there, and it's probably the main reason why, especially after the Menagerie, which was half stuff we already knew, I was like, we should probably record now because I'll have forgotten in a week. That wouldn't have been nice, because as it stands, I'm already I remember being very afraid it would just be a full-on Alice in Wonderland thing once the fucking rabbit showed up. Thankfully, it's a bit wider than that. There's some other weird literary references, but, it's just, one conceit really stretched thin for the entire episode until they figure out where they are.
Yeah, I mean... And
I like where they are. I like the idea of, play is important. Of course, people should have some fun. But then, just McCoy coming up with these two models and the weird tension with the yeoman. I wasn't sure about her rank anymore. Yeah, that was just
Yeoman Barrows.
What are we doing? Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I liked this actress enough that if they because in the original script she was supposed to be Rand, and all of the stuff with her and McCoy was supposed to be her and Kirk, and they changed it. But honestly, let me just say this: if they had wanted to make her blonde and just call her Janice Rand, I would have been happier. Let her continue the Rand role. I'm sorry for everything that, all the bad things that happened to Grace Lee Whitney. I'm sorry for the years of substance abuse that came after the show. I like this actress better. I'm not a huge fan of Grace Lee Whitney in the role.
Yeah, she didn't have much of a role. I was drawn to this actress. There was something going on there. I also liked twisting it around and not everything female having to do with, I'm in love with Kirk. I like that McCoy had a chance for once. Like, but if you had just recast, I don't know. We just had cannoned our way through why Rand left, so I'm good with that at this point.
I'm also,
but I would like her to show up more often, which I'm guessing is not gonna fly all that often. But...
I mean, I don't remember her showing up again. She might.
Yeah.
But you know what? I also didn't remember that McGivers shows up. And Kirk calls her some other name. Because she was the one with the dude, and they were the ones being attacked by the tiger.
Yeah.
Initially. And I'm like, do you remember McGivers?
I didn't remember the name, but I, like...
She was the one who lost her husband, or her fiancé, in Balance of Terror. And I'm like,
right.
Girl, you already trying to hit on another crewman? Jesus Christ.
No, that does change some things. Yeah, man, I had definitely not recognized her from, like, the snippets we got in that episode.
Yeah, but in the script...
Fun, though.
In the script, she was Teller, and then she was Mary Teller in the script, and then they cast Barbara Baldwin as the character, and then someone pointed out, oh, she's already a character on the show.
Whoopsie.
She's Angela Martine. Not McGivers, that was Space Seed, sorry. Angela Martine. And then
that also, if you're messing up names, I will definitely not recognize them.
Here's the thing: we were just talking about Space Seed a minute ago, off the show, because you noticed that me and Matt had already recorded a Space Seed episode.
Yeah.
So I have that in my head, but no, I'm thinking about Angela Martine from Balance of Terror, and someone pointed out, no, she's already Angela Martine. So there's a scene where Kurt calls her Teller, but in the script they had changed it to Angela, and in the closing credits she was credited as Angela.
Yeah.
So like,
okay, I might have been extra confused because I was just disregarding those characters because, well, they have names, but especially if fucking Kirk starts using the wrong names, I'm just like, I don't know who we're talking about anymore. It's fine.
Yeah, no,
they'll just cut to the person they are talking about, and I'll understand the gist of it.
Yeah, but yeah, I think I would have been great with Barrows continuing and being a love interest of McCoy's as well.
Yeah,
or not a love interest. She could be her own woman.
Yeah, just in general being around like that would have been interesting.
But their chemistry was great.
Exactly. They seemed really, really neat together.
When she's like, "Don't peek," and
also
he's like,
probably, yeah.
My dear girl, I am a doctor. When I peek, it's in the line of duty.
Yeah, he was delightful. Like, it was like, oh, he can be charming. He's also still really fucking old, but sure.
I don't think he was that old in the show.
No, probably not. He just looks way older than Kirk for some reason. So I'm like, this gap, man. But
well, he was older than Kirk.
It might not be as bad. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he was about 10 years.
All the actresses are, yeah.
Yeah, he was about 10 years older, I think. But
it could have been worse.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, this is a day. This is like 66, 67. This is a time where we had, like, you know, the oldest doctor on Doctor Who was supposed to be an old man. He was played by a 45-year-old. And his face looked worn as shit because he'd been in the war and he'd gone through the Great Depression. And
of course,
people just looked old back then, man. You know,
that might also be a thing. Yeah, you have a point there. People just came out the womb looking like a geriatric patient. Yeah,
and Kirk doesn't because he was like the first of the first generation to like slip out unscathed for a minute. Like,
good for him.
Yeah. I did like Spock saying, "On my planet, to rest is to rest. To cease using energy. To me, it is quite illogical to run up and down on green grass using energy instead of saving it."
Yeah, that's a fair point. Just lie the fuck down.
One of my favorite bits on this episode, though, is when they were like basically pointing out, like, we have a crewman who refuses to go on leave, and his productivity is down 12%, and and Kirk's like, that's unacceptable, and he's like, what's this man's name? And they're like, James Kirk, go on leave.
Glad we agree. You suck right now. Go. It does, because it is very telling that he needs that, but he also listens, but he also really wants to just drive himself into the ground, expecting he doesn't need rest or something.
Yeah.
Which is just, it's good to make a point of that. Like, yeah, his reaction time would also be dwindling. He needs to just go ahead and play. And while, yeah, the illogical running up and down a hill thing, it sounds odd to me as well, because I'm like, oh, please let me just sleep. I'll go on shore leave and sleep in that nice grassy, like, look out over the lake and be gone. But yeah, play is the theme eventually, so like it makes sense that rest would also involve some sort of just action that is meant to relax. Like, this is interesting. There's something there. No. It's just not delved into or anything. So
no,
I'm trying to find something, but.
One of the things I really don't like about this episode is that Kirk is just so, like, not a good captain.
Yeah, I get that.
Spock is like, do you want me to beam down people with, like, an armed party with phasers and shit? And he's like, no, our people they have phasers here.
We're armed. Phasers. We're fine.
He's like, plus there's yet to be any real danger. And, like...
2 seconds later.
Like, no, like, this is directly after Barrows has been, like, sexually assaulted by Don Juan and had her dress ripped.
That's not dangerous to her life, though. It's just, traumatizing.
Yeah.
Except we'll disregard the fact that trauma is not great for functioning in within Starfleet, but...
Yeah, so that's a point of contention for me. That's like, I don't like that one. I don't like that part. I also don't like
I get that. Yeah, and I wanted to add to that just the entirety of he seems very eager to just go after his own hallucinations even when he knows they're fake. He's like, oh no, let me talk to this old flame. Let me beat up this guy. I gotta deal with this first. Where it's like, you could have stayed together or like come up with a plan or like not wasted time while you were telling the others to rendezvous back at the first bit of the park. Like,
yeah,
there were a bunch of weird choices like that where it was like, come on. Very emotional. It's not quite logical, as Spock would probably put it.
I do wish that there had been some line that would have said, hey, by the way, something about this atmosphere is messing with our inhibitions. But
yeah, that would have been interesting.
Because that would have fixed it. Because otherwise, it's a lovely episode, really. I mean, it's... I like that there wasn't
some great... It's a fun concept.
Yeah, I like that there wasn't some great threat as far as, like...
Agreed.
Some horrible being.
Sometimes it's just... Yeah, sometimes it's just, oh no, we come here to have fun, but y'all didn't get the memo.
I am...
That's great.
I am shocked that I have never, because I thought about it this time watching it, I'm shocked that I have never heard a Star Trek fan so much as theorize, even offhandedly, that McCoy actually was killed and that McCoy for the rest of the series is one of these creations. Like one of these like manufactured robots.
Yeah, it's kind of the ship of whatever. Like if you replaced some parts to fix him up, so like at what point is he still McCoy?
Mm-hmm.
I forget what the paradox is called. Like Theseus's ship? I don't know.
Yeah, the ship.
It comes up in WandaVision at some point. Yeah, I remember, but
the
like
ship of Theseus.
The philosophical Theseus. Thank you.
The ship of Theseus.
I got all of my Greek mythological figures mixed up all at once for a second there, and I was just like, who was also on a ship? Like Jason, and God, there's so many. Odysseus also has a ship. Like they all have ships. These fucking people and their boats, guys, and their boats. Man,
it's one of their only ways of
fishing
travel.
Trips. I know.
It's like Theseus was pissed off when he found out his turtles were flayed, and wasn't turtles, it was cattle. And it was Hermes.
Close enough.
But then, like, he runs into his old flame, and like the dude on the intercom is like, on the communicator's like, So a while ago I saw some birds. There was a whole bunch of them. I mean, he's like, yeah, you like birds, right?
Seems fine. No problem here.
Yeah, man, they're great. But all the surveys showed, then offhand I'd say your instruments are defective. Bye.
I'm busy. Like, what? What?
It was like, okay. Like, Kirk really wants to bone this Mirage or whatever she is.
Apparently, yeah.
This robot that looks like an old love.
Like, I can only imagine a system like this would be used for a lot of just porn. Like, you go there for recreational purposes, you're like, let me imagine someone hot.
Well, like they didn't shy away from that in this episode.
No.
I mean, it was almost like they thought this is exactly what... I mean, not to put too fine of a point on it, but she said a girl could really use... All a girl really needs is Don Juan, and then Don Juan shows up and sexually assaults her. It's like they were... It's like these people on this planet were like, well, she asked for it.
Yeah, it's a rape fantasy. Plenty of people have that. It's consensual non-consent at this point.
Well, not even like, what if it wasn't that? What if it was literally like she wanted something like that? This dude shows up, freaks her out. Suddenly she's not in the mood because you're not expecting the guy to show up.
No. At that point, it's not CNC. It's just rape. But yeah.
But this non-life form is programmed for boning.
For the one. Yeah. It's Don Juan.
It's accidental non-consensual. That's the problem.
Yeah. It gets complicated, yeah.
But this dude is like, y'all didn't understand. I thought y'all knew what this was.
Yeah. Like, you were asking for something, right? You were thinking about it. We're just scanning you. At the same time, it seems terribly unsafe to have a system that's just scanning your random thoughts, and you're talking about warplanes, and you're able to shoot yourself with a plane making a strafing run. Like, Jesus.
Now, also planes that continuously changed. They were never the same planes.
Delightful. I didn't look that close, apparently. Maybe I didn't watch it on the big enough screen.
Stock footage.
Of course. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I like, clearly, like, Kirk's got some kind of thing going on where he's like, I think that is interesting. Like, he's frustrated and he's tired, and all he wants to do is punch that piece of shit who used to torture him in school. Yeah. And then at the same time, like, either that or bone the shit out of my ex. That also would be great.
He must have been very tired. Yeah, his let's just accept that his decision making isn't at its all-time high because he really needed a rest.
Yeah.
And eventually they all got to, bone their ex and have fun. So
I mean,
they sat down with a smile at the end.
McCoy just thought about a couple of burlesque dancers and they just showed up.
Yeah. He had a good day and then realized he was here with, a real person.
He was like, it wasn't my fault. Yeah. He just showed up.
They were just there. I just had thoughts. Please don't hit me. Yeah.
I just had some thoughts there. Yeah, I don't know. This is a weird episode and makes me feel a little icky.
It's an oddball thing because it is like, maybe it's the anachronistic quality in there where it is just all clearly stuff they had lying around from probably other programs and sets and props and shit. Yeah. Where they were like, we can use elements from all cultural references previous to the 60s, but also we're in the future. So it doesn't feel as futuristic in that regard, but they are limited by their own thoughts, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was fun. It's not one of the greats. It's there.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I was like, but I was also in the mood to watch another because I wasn't quite satisfied with the two episodes we watched, in a sense. I feel like maybe that should be my standard, where I'm like, do I feel the need to immediately continue watching to like get to the good stuff, or am I like, that was nice, let me let it sink in, let me talk to Dave soon, and maybe that's an indication of quality as well, where I should really ask myself, is this plenty, or is this just an appetizer?
Yeah. By the way, can I just go back real quick and say, especially with the way Spock talked to Rand at the end of The Enemy Within about Evil Kirk being interesting, really not digging how much the original series thus far is pushing towards women having rape fantasies. Just saying.
Yeah.
I don't feel good about it.
No, because it's clearly not, like, I was joking about the whole kink thing, where it's like, that's a thing. That's perfectly okay to have fantasies about. It's also a thing you communicate about and, like, actually discuss and plan and like, before you start a scene. That's all basic BDSM shit, where it's like, don't just grab a woman like that. That's not a, oh, she'll like it kind of thing. And they are very stuck in that era. Yeah,
and apparently they thankfully thought better of it, either because of time constraints or, God, I hope they just saw the scene and just went no. But there is a deleted scene of him accosting her. So,
oh no.
Yeah, so
I'm glad they were like, let's not show that on TV.
Yeah,
kids are watching, yeah.
Okay, so I have to ask you about this. The Kirk Spock shippers. This episode is one of the many episodes they point to, specifically Kirk believing that Spock is giving him a massage.
Yeah, right. I almost forgot about that. That was great.
And then being embarrassed when it's Barrows.
Yeah. Oh, that was very funny. Because once it started, I was like, oh, this is creepy. This feels wrong. And then you see Spock step forward, and I'm like, oh, he doesn't realize. And I was like, that's such a clever trick, because it's like, I'm willing to accept that from my,
my first officer.
Yeah,
who's an emotionless Vulcan.
Exactly. Like, and there's nothing in it, and it's fine. But then it's like, oh no, this is a woman lower in rank. I'm abusing my power now. Like, there is, to me, it was very clearly a complete awkwardness with her potentially showing interest, and like,
and power dynamics.
Like, oh no, professionalism. Yeah, it is back to I'm the captain. I cannot be seen like this and involved with anyone. Yeah, because it was back to all business. He was really getting into it though. Like, I get that, but
yeah.
At the same time, it didn't seem to me like, oh, they're used to doing this. It was like, no. It's like, it makes sense for him to expect that Spock would just be like, oh, this muscle right there, and not, expect the yeoman to take care of him like that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people think like, oh, Kirk and Spock have been doing this for a while. They're used to it, and then Kirk's annoyed because it's not Spock. It was some girl. And I'm like,
I don't think that's the annoyance. I could see the between the lines where it's like, yeah, sure, they can give each other back rips. That's fine. Like, sure. If that's your headcanon, go ahead. Well, it was the 60s, so you're not going to see a lot. So we have crumbs as the gays, you tend to get. Many crumbs.
But if Kirk and Spock were gay together, I still don't think it would be appropriate, because Spock is still.
No, at that point it would have been. Yeah, at that point it would immediately be very inappropriate and like slightly go against his character, where he's like, he's not just being professional with all the ladies because he's like scared of women and like, no, right. Get off me, I'm gay. Like, that's not the vibe I'm getting. The vibe I'm getting is, I'm the captain, please just don't make this harder than it has to be.
Now, like, look, there are possible stories going on where like a captain and a first officer are together, and sure. I won't get into spoilers there. Yeah, I won't go into spoilers there, because that is future Star Trek for you. But I will say my primary issue with the Kirk Spock fan fiction is that, as they in later things, they basically they out and out call each other brothers and shit. Like, that's weird. Like, it's very clearly like, maybe it was them reacting to the knowledge that this fan base was there and wanting to like dispel that.
Yeah.
But Shatner has said he never played the character that way. Nimoy said, yeah, it wasn't what we were going for. Roddenberry said it wasn't what we were going for, and even wrote like a whole chapter.
It was the 60s. Like, if there is. There are plenty of things where there is a lot of gay subtext, and you're like, yeah, let's read it that way. In this case, there's not a lot there. There's just two male leads, and you're like,
and I think it's very clear that Kurt was just very flirty with everyone. He was very charming.
Oh, that too. Yeah. He's just being himself.
Yeah. And, maybe it's just a lack of imagination or a love of creator-intended canon or,
Oh, I'm not necessarily a fan of that usually, so I'll go out of my way to ignore the creator if they're wrong. It's like there's not gonna be. I haven't yet seen the like longing stares where I'm like, this is the homoerotic subtext that you would get in like period pieces from Roman Empire shit like Ben-Hur, and like there's stuff in that time frame that already existed that does do that because you needed to use subtext if you were trying to get any sort of gay shit in your movie or TV show. But there's just not a lot to grab onto as of yet. So I'm like, they seem to really love each other as friends, and that's fine. Like we've just seen an entire episode of Spock being fiercely loyal to his captains.
Yeah, no,
good for him.
Look, I am not opposed to an alternate reality where they're getting it on. Really bother me at all. Like, I'm not opposed to either character being bi.
Yeah,
I don't care about that.
Honestly, it seems illogical not to be bi. It doubles your dating pool. Like for Spock, sure. Look, like why would you limit yourself to only one gender? And that's all kind of constructed anyways. Like I could see a Spock that would generally just distance himself from why would I care what genitalia are in their pants? Like I am either, he's generally not attracted to anyone, but it like to him, I feel like it would not seem logical to not be anything but pansexual. Like, even in what we've seen so far, just me and you, I've already gotten that Spock was looking a certain way at those women that Mudd brought on. Spock was looking a certain way at Christine. We know he's got feelings for her. True.
But he just like, and he was deeply sorry, but he can't. Because he is a Vulcan. This is how he is. Yeah. He cannot give her what she needs.
It is clearly a cultural thing. It is like, I have to repress these emotions. It's not that they're not there. Which is why I wouldn't necessarily... Like, Arrow Ace could be an interpretation, but it is clearly something he's repressing rather than a genuine, like, lack of interest.
He's like a priest.
Yeah, basically.
Who doesn't have sex with little boys.
Yeah. Hopefully. We haven't seen that episode yet, right?
Jesus. And you won't.
I hope not.
There's an episode called The Children Shall Lead. Do not be fooled. That is not what happens in that episode.
God damn it. Oh. No, we've had plenty of kid actors already, so we're good.
Yeah. By the way, so the studio was not a big fan of this script because they believed it was too fantastical, too unbelievable.
Sure, and it's a little weird. Yeah.
To like try to
it's fantastical, but not like in a technological or sci-fi way. It kind of bends out of the genre in a way.
It does seem to a little bit, but then they come back and they're like, "Oh, all this is like, oh, look, the factories, the factories down below, Jim. You wouldn't believe it. They can do all this crazy." Yeah. But to try to sway the studio, Shatner wanted to wrestle the tiger.
Because that's believable. Yeah. And like, I've been punching a guy for hours now. Let me just have a go at the tiger. Come on.
He wanted to wrestle a tiger to be like, look how cool this is, though. And then they like took Shatner and showed the tiger like eating meat and ripping it apart with his tongue and his claws and stuff. And Shatner was like, yeah, that's not good.
That's not a wise idea. Maybe this was a really bad idea. Yeah, oh God. Like, it sounds cool until you get killed. Like, as a lead actor, you cannot take that risk. And even though PETA wasn't around yet, like, just be glad we have a tiger on set. Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
That, the overconfidence. He was so gung-ho about, like, anything for the show. We're going to make this a great show. And they're like, watch the tiger eat all this meat right here, and then tell me you want to. Oh, shit. No, I'm good.
Never mind. The show will be fine without it. Like, they'll get it.
Yeah.
Like,
I did.
Oh God.
I did think this. I did think this episode was sufficiently science fiction enough. But I have always stood in the camp of Star Trek as sci-fi fantasy space opera.
Sure.
It's not hard sci-fi. It's not
No,
for Christ's sake. So,
and I like the space opera aspects of it. It's just some of them went like just like the giant rabbit was just an interesting way to start off. Where I was like, oh, this is where we're going. Okay.
not quite. I mean, I would love to know, and if we have any Japanese listeners or anyone fluent in Japanese, please tell me, did the samurai actually speak Japanese? Was he yelling in like Japanese, or was he just like
that would be interesting.
Was he doing like 60s gobbledygook Japanese? Which I would
it's
hope.
very possible.
I would hope to the bottom of my heart that if George Takei heard him doing that, he would be like, "Oh no."
Yeah,
but
hopefully he could have helped that, but you never know.
The way it sounded, though, it also sounded like it could have just been all ADR and he not have anything to do with it.
Also very possible, yeah.
So yeah, would love to know.
There's no telling.
What you guys think. And
I didn't listen real closely, like not enough of an anime bro to really tell like if it makes sense.
Yeah. Oh well. That's all I've got for this episode.
Yeah.
There's not much to it.
No, I get that. There's just not more to really discuss. It's one conceit, and it's sort of that similar tension throughout where it's like, oh, other hallucinations, but we still don't really get any closer to what the hallucinations are or mean or how they work. Mm-hmm. It's just like, oh, we think of something and it's there. And then eventually there's a reveal. But there's not necessarily much of a build except for McCoy dying midway through because he's like, let's test if this works this way. Like, if I do nothing, will I die? Which is a risky gamble. Like, we've already established at that point that like, you can touch the hallucinations. They're not fake. They're not in your mind. We're not in the cage anymore. But yeah.
But I mean, by the time we get to Next Generation, they have full on replicators who can just make food for you, make uniforms and all sorts of shit. So like, I'm guessing is the kernel of that in Roddenberry's mind or whoever's mind that like, perhaps. They could just create this fancy robot who can do this or
no, and that makes sense because it is a different thing from just hallucinations. So I get that McCoy would test it, but I feel like someone should have told him like at that point, like no, I've been assaulted by one. You can, you know, it's not exactly a matter of you can't be harmed. We have wounds. Yeah.
That would be just too smart, I guess.
He's only a medical doctor, you know. No one taught him other deductive skills. It's just reproduction of medical knowledge.
Well,
and those machines do most of the work. It's fine.
Well, I know one episode he says I'm a doctor, not a psychiatrist, and then like in other episodes they clearly state that he's had training. He's a psychiatrist.
I remember that. Yeah.
You're like, what are you talking about, McCoy?
All medical doctors just also happen to be psychiatrists. It's a lot of work, but you got to do all of it.
Well, if he's the only doctor or one of the, like,
it would be wise.
Yeah, if you're like a crew of 430 and there's like 3 doctors, all of you probably need
one of them should be a shrink. Yeah.
But
at the same time, one shrink for 430 people? Yeah. That's rough, man. Ooh, that's a job. Jesus.
But you forget this is a utopia, so they're all very adjusted.
Sure, they're happy and unharmed, except for I've lost my parents in this war and like all the things we've encountered up until now.
Yeah, like I have racism because my granddaddy was in the Romulan War.
Yeah. And I was one of the last to see this dictator wreck half of his people and all of that jazz. Like, they don't have issues. They are perfectly well adjusted after, losing their parents to a culling. And there's so many things like that where I'm like, oh, you should see someone.
Yeah. Oh, Tarsus 4.
Then again, maybe if you do have the I'd love to be swept away by Don Juan fantasies, you probably shouldn't tell McCoy. That's maybe not the person for it. Do they have sex workers aboard the Enterprise? That would be utopian.
Well, they don't need sex workers because there's no money.
Right. But they're still, fair. So there's no one willing to do it, you think? Interesting how that will work economically. I have to think about this.
Well, we're still pretty unsure of exactly what the monetary system is on Star Trek, because Spock refers to some sort of currency, and as does Kirk. But then in a movie, they say there's no money.
Yeah.
But in DS9, there's clearly some kind of currency because Sisko's dad runs a restaurant. But we don't know if they do it for transporter rations or if
it's trade,
or if they get an allotment. But if they have a passion, they can also contribute to society in the way that they want and make extra from that. Or we don't know.
Yeah, it's unclear. Fair enough.
No idea. But Star Trek 4 and Star Trek 8, they definitely say that humankind, or Kirk says, I don't have money, or we don't have money, we don't use money. And we don't know if he means, because he's in the past when he says it, in 1986, so we don't know if he means U.S. currency or Federation currency.
We don't have dollar bills.
Yeah, they don't have it.
Yeah.
And then in First Contact, Picard mentioned something about we don't aspire to. He dodges the question basically. He's like, we don't aspire to gain material wealth or some shit.
Sure. And that's even later in the timeline, so God knows.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, it's confounded us all for years, and I assume we'll continue to.
And no one wants to be the one to answer that because
and they just
trying to unite that into a coherent thing canon wise, it's gonna suck.
Yeah, they just decide to they pretty much just wind up going to being if we talk about money, it's gonna be on an alien world, and we're probably gonna talk about gold press latinum.
Sure, makes sense.
Or Quatlus.
Ooh, I want some of those.
All right,
I'm a greedy one. Oh,
I'm done. So
it's all right. Let's go.
All right. Hope you enjoyed this episode. You can reach us at StarTrekUcast@gmail.com. You can talk to us on Twitter and YouTube and Threads and all the places. Just Instagram, whatever.
Just look into it. You'll find us.
We're around. And until next time, when we talk about what? I had it ready last time, and I forgot it this time.
The Squire of Gothos.
Is it the Squire of Gothos? Really?
Yeah, it's the Squire of Gothos.
Fun.
Good to know.
Alrighty. Well, we're going to talk about the Squire of Gothos next time. And, watch along with us. Send us your feedback. There. And Joel on True, and live long and prosper.
And eat a dick. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Roberson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.